I'm great, great.
You're great. Nice,
So
nice.
good to see you again.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's really, really exciting stuff. I late last night watching all the presentations of all the
Uh-huh.
all the
Uh-huh.
intelligent people.
Nice.
That was really something. I'm really glad you guys are doing this because
Hmm.
this is so important to communicate
Of course.
all
Yes.
these things to the world. You know, we talk so much
Uh-huh.
sort of behind the scenes as it appears from
Sure.
the outside world's perspective, and this is like so beneficial for people to actually know
Yeah.
what is going on. And
Hmm.
so thumbs up for that. It's really
Yes.
great.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, 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 of course. So my name is Marcin Zietek. I'm with Tokenika. Tokenika is a standby block producer based in Warsaw, Poland, in Central Europe. We are we have been involved in DPoS and in Dan Larimer's projects for a really long time, actually. So the company itself is only a year old, but the members of the team have been around for a good 4 or 5 years. So we actually remember the launch of BitShares, and even a little bit before that, when Dan Larimer was toying with Proto shares and Angel shares. We thought it was an interesting lead to follow, and then it developed into something of the magnitude that we have right now, which is EOS. So we are very experienced with DPoS as a protocol. We also have a #1 Witness node on Steam platform. Witness is the block producer there. It's the synonym on Steam for a block producer. So this is our home turf, so to speak. We feel actually really old in this. It's a funny thing because, you know, like the industry seems very young, and we feel like old people just coming and, oh, we've seen it all.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Hmm.
And so as Tokenika, we mostly focus on supporting the development on EOS as the most important thing to get things going, because what we've witnessed on BitShares and Steam over time was that as long as there is no healthy development framework, nothing actually gets done. So we can argue to no end about governance, politics, and whatever, and what is it that we want to do, but if the development is expensive and not exactly up to scratch, then people will just wander off to different platforms. So this is why we focused exclusively on that right now, apart from sort of protection of the realm, of the DPoS realm, which we've seen a lot of mishaps in the previous incarnations in BitShares and in Steam, when people quarreled and fought over things and what it eventually led to. So we think we're quite well grounded in this. Our main contribution to the EOS ecosystem right now is a framework for testing of smart contracts. It is called EOS Factory, and EOS Factory is we've been building this for quite an amount of time right now, probably for a good 7 months, so before EOS was even launched. And it is a framework for unit testing your smart contracts, so it prevents bugs from being overlooked in the code. And we know that, you know, bugs are extremely expensive in smart contracts, and we don't want people to run into these problems, because you know, it's so much easier to just get it right in the beginning. Of course, it doesn't prevent from sloppy coding when you don't know what you're doing, but it does properly unit test your stuff. It's compatible with all the operating systems already, with OS X, Linux, Windows. It's supposed there's a Python wrapper that you use to write your smart contracts, and Visual Code Studio is supported. It's quite flexible for people that want to just get their hands dirty and start developing. We have a few more projects up in our pipeline. Also work with big sort of startup-ish concepts on EOS, such as identity and next generation of social networking. We have a lot of research done on that. But also the actual topic of my today's presentation is about governance. This is also very dear to our hearts because we think that good governance and especially sustainable and decentralized governance is very important to make EOS thrive, because experiments in this field, if they're failed and they're not exactly thought through, they actually introduce so much of backlash and of problems down the line that we think it's something that needs to be really well thought out and protected. And I will try to share my screen now with you and talk you through.
Marcin, somehow we can't see your face. Oh, there you go. Okay, you're up.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. If let's see if
do you
that
know
works.
how to do it?
Yes, I know how to do it. I'm just trying to.
Okay.
Okay, I'm assuming it's happening right now.
Yes.
Okay. So, just hang on a second. This is loading. Okay, I can't see myself right now, but I'm assuming you guys see a Tokenika
Yes.
logo. Okay, that's great. So, like I said, like EOS Factory is the truffle for EOS. And the truffle framework, whoever's familiar with truffle, this is basically what we're doing. Another thing I should mention probably is we have a voting proxy, Tokenika for Dev, that is developing block producers that are also development oriented, supporting block producers that are development oriented. So we vote for people that actually develop stuff. And we're not so concerned about, you know, ownership disclosures, all the politics and everything. But this is that. But like I said, my main presentation is about scalable governance. So here it goes. I wanted to talk about the risks of too much governance on EOS in its current immature state, because this is what's been troubling us lately, that I think we're trying to rush things and make them sort of happen right off the bat as if we knew what we were doing. And I don't think it is even possible to know this at this stage. And our key points sort of supporting this is that EOS user base is a multinational, non-homogeneous crowd from multiple jurisdictions and legal systems. And by definition, their understanding of what is governance is going to be extremely different across the board. And we can try to sort of denominate that somehow into a single entity, but we think this is actually a little bit early for that. So it may be hard to enforce this single governance entity, and by saying single governance entity, I mean the default ECAF arbitration in this situation. So we predict a lot of friction that is going to happen externally, internally, and lead to disputes, forks, and weakening of the system because of the complexity of the task and of the scale. And the next thing is that it also constitutes a point of failure in the system, because if the network is properly decentralized and there is a body that is trying to handle all the disputes by default, it may just crumble under its own weight. But that's all good, but what can we do about it? So over here we have a blue circle. From now on, all these little squares will represent individual users. The filled-in dots will be distributed apps, and the pentagons here will be protective tools and bodies on EOS. So this is the EOS main chain, as it is, as a newborn. We just seen it come to life recently. And on the EOS main chain, we actually have a lot of protective mechanisms already by default, which is, I think, sometimes is getting forgotten, that we are actually quite well protected on the EOS main chain as it is right now, as opposed to Ethereum or Bitcoin, where whatever happens, happens, and you cannot do anything about it. So what are these protective mechanisms? First of all, we have token staking. You can stake your tokens and make them immobile for 3 days. So whoever tries to steal from you is actually unable to do that physically, whatever their access is to the tokens. So you can steal your keys, and still he has to wait for 3 days before he can do that. And you can easily set up an alert on any number of applications right now. Even on Telegram, there's a bot that will set up an alert for you saying that somebody is trying to unstake your tokens. So you'll get a message saying that, look, somebody's just trying to steal your money right now. And you can undo that operation and also recover your accounts through the usage of owner key and active key. The owner key was the one that you should just keep in your safe, whereas the active key is the one that you use for signing everyday operations. But if your active key gets compromised, you can use the owner key to revoke the active key and change it. So the token staking combined with revoking of the active key is actually a very powerful protective mechanism that should take care of 95% of all the thefts that happen on a blockchain. It does not address the ones that already happened during the migration from the ERC token to the EOS token, because that was a special case situation where people had to perform one-off operation to acquire their proper EOS tokens. But from now on, this is actually how it should be done. And we don't think there's going to be a lot of problems down the line if people stake their tokens properly. And last but not least, the BP intervention in extreme cases still protects the EOS main chain as it is right now. Let's not forget that in the case of a giant hack, for example, something like DAO on Ethereum, the BPs can still summon their majority, 15 of the 21, and stop whatever smart contract is running, or simply freeze an account or do anything. We don't actually need anything other than what we have already. So, and it is a governed blockchain as it is. DPoS is governed by definition by the voters. So let's assume that some of the apps already find this sufficient and they join the blockchain. So these little circles here represent the dApps that think this is okay. That you could see this as dApps that migrated from Ethereum and think, wow, this is just like Ethereum, except it's quite a lot safer, actually, and it's also 100 times faster already, which has been proven, actually 120 to be specific. I think we reached almost 4,000 transactions per second, which is great. So these dApps join, and ICOs or whatever, this is basically the Ethereum crowd that wants to be on EOS, and I don't think we should play them down because Ethereum was, and it still is, worth quite a lot through all the money that they have gathered. So the users come to the dApps and decide to join, but this is not everything that can happen on a main chain that is clean of default arbitration, because these dApps can appoint their external arbitrators that will resolve any disputes between their users. So this is also a very healthy mechanism, because a dApp knows what it's doing, what its business model is, what kind of interactions happen within it. And because of that, they know which arbitrator is going to be best for them. So suppose they appoint one. So over here, we see a commercial arbitrator, and it has been chosen by dApp 3 and dApp 5. So all these users over here and over here are actually subjected to the arbitration of these guys. And there can be more of these. dApp 2 can think that a different one over here or anywhere is going to do a better job. So this is a free market mechanism that binds these dApps to use these arbitrators. I mean, the users of these dApps to use these arbitrators in case of any fallout. But suppose that there is a crowd of people that still think that this is insufficient, that all these protections are insufficient, and they want to be protected from the get-go just because they join a chain. So what we think should happen is we have sidechains. In the EOS white paper, there are sidechains that are going to be implemented, and they're being implemented right now at block 1. And these sidechains can be governed with a different set of rules. So for example, this sidechain here on the right has an ECAF arbitrator by default. So whatever happens to you on that sidechain is actually arbitrated by ECAF. And anything can be that, you know, like if you get stolen from, if you get phished, like ECAF will order the BPs to interfere, and they will, because they know it's on this side chain, so they have the mandate to do it. And over here we have an EMAC arbitrator, which is strong in Asia, and it's a different body actually, and they should coexist together, and they don't have to negotiate everything between themselves, because they operate in different jurisdictions, and it's only a lot of friction if they need to become one and they actually never were one. And so what happens next is that users that think that this here construct, this little air balloon with one rope missing, is enough, is not enough, they will, here, these are the users, they stake their tokens on the sidechain. There are dApps over here that also think that ECAF is a good idea, and dApps here that EMAC that want to be represented and spread and take part in these dApps. And they have the default ECAF arbitrator as their arbitrator. So they're a bit like these ones, except these were commercial and they chose their own one. But these, by default, use a sidechain that has that. So what are the benefits of this approach? Here we go. First of all, users get to choose the level of protection and the form of jurisdiction that suits their needs and beliefs. So it's a lot like choosing a country. You arrive from the exterritorial waters that are the main chain, and you choose a place that you think that represents you the best, that is aligned with your needs. And that way, EOS can actually accommodate for a much larger crowd of investors, because we don't have a body that everybody needs to trust. We don't have to convince everyone that we are up to scratch. They can just choose their own. And if there isn't one, they can wait or go somewhere else. This one is really important, actually. The arbitrating bodies and all the governance initiatives have space to test their ideas without affecting the entire chain if things go wrong. So we argued a lot about whether voting is beneficial and if it's necessary for the election of the arbitrators. But even though we vote on something, it doesn't mean it's going to work well. So it would be nice to have a testing ground in form of a sidechain that will prove that your concept actually works, and you don't affect all the EOS investors. And therefore, this is actually a very responsible thing to do, we think, and it will preserve the token value much better than doing these open heart operations that may backfire and introduce a lot of fallout. Like suppose ECAF orders something that is proven wrong after 2 months and makes it all into the press and says, okay, like these guys rule EOS and they just made somebody lose $5 million and someone got away with the money because they cashed it in. And like these are huge risks actually for a multi-billion-dollar blockchain. So also due to the lack of the entitled by default entities, which ECAF would be, those who do perform the arbitration, they become exposed to if you do a bad job, no one will come to your sidechain, or no one will choose you as a commercial arbitrator because you're just, you're shit. As simple as that. And this is a very healthy mechanism also. And last but not least, well, actually, this is not the last one. There is no single point of failure. If the main chain stays clean with only bare minimum of governance provided by BP's decisions, which has already been happening, we can't point to a single body that we could corrupt or anything. Because BPs can still stop big hacks like DAO and introduce like without introducing centralized entities to EOS. And last but not least, the EOS constitution can remain lean and non-interventionist, which makes it much easier to draft and enforce. So these are all my points. I welcome any kind of discussion. We've been debating this on Telegram for and these arguments just get bounced back and forth. But we thought it was very important to communicate this to the wider public. So thank you very much for listening. Oh dear, sorry, always forgot about that. There's also challenges, of course. We need to address that. I added this slide at the last moment, so please forgive me. So the implementations of sidechains and inter-blockchain communication must happen first before that is possible. And I think we need to take a step back from all this manual governance and provide the technology first. And this is unfortunately in the hands of Block One, or fortunately, because they're a very big and powerful software house, and we hope they will just deliver this quick. And there may be technical difficulties in the implementation, and then there may be hiccups. And I think still we should be patient until this is resolved. And until then, rely on the built-in EOS tools and protection of property, and educate the people on how to stake their tokens, how to be careful, how to use all the cool things that we have already. So thank you very much. I said before, we have a voting proxy, Tokenika for Dev, where you can proxy your votes if you support the development angle of Tokenika. We'll also be doing a developer conference in sometime in November. We'll be keeping you up to date about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcin.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
for.
Okay, I'm back. That's a stop screen sharing.
Yes, very clear.
Okay, I hope I didn't break up. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll see you around, Marcin. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.